And we are on the ground. Manuel Coranting is there to tell us more. First, Kingdom Books and Stationery Limited, your number one supplier of quality office essentials, equipment, and furniture at affordable prices, has introduced an online store for your shopping convenience. This means you can now shop simply by logging on to kingdomstoreonline.com without physically going to any of their branches. It's hassle-free and it's safer. They will also arrange delivery to your home and office within a reasonable time, of course. They offer free delivery within Accra and Tema, and they accept payment via Momo across all networks. Terms and conditions, however, do apply. At Kingdom, quality and affordability is their hallmark.
Now, when you smell gas, open doors and windows to get rid of the gas. Check and see if the gas has been left on. If not, there's probably a gas leakage, so turn off the regulator and call technicians to service your stove. If it is safe to do so, try to locate the source of the leakage by applying a solution of soapy water to the base of your cylinder valve or along the flexible hose. If bubbles appear and become bigger or increase in number, then you have a leakage. Knowing where the leakages helps to prevent accidents. This public service announcement is brought to you by the National Petroleum Authority. Stay safe.
Okay, now I forgot to do this. I need to do it very quickly. The family of the twins still need a lot of support. The medical bills have been paid for, but they still need help with upkeep. The children cannot be returned to that home as well. So those of you who are giving, please continue to give. They appreciate your kindness. The numbers, once again, the MTN Momo number, 055 261 3553. So that's 055 261 3553. That's for MTN Momo. For Airtel Tigo is 027 000 7786. If you're writing a check, please make it out to MOH Ridge Hospital number 1. God bless you. Okay, so good morning to all of those tuned into Love FM in Kumasi. Thank you so much for joining us on the Super Morning Show. Now, let's take you, all of us, together to Makola, where the fire has broken out again in the same building that was burning yesterday. Manuel Cranting is our reporter on the ground. We also have Dr. Ishmael Norman, the president of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, joining us via phone. But let's go straight to the grounds. Manuel, what is happening? Do we have Manuel Cranting? Right. Let's see if we can reconnect with Manuel shortly. But Winston, what a strange occurrence.
Exactly. So could you, just about 30 minutes ago, I got a call from Manuel, who indicates that, well, the fire is reignited in the same building. Now, that's not a building close to it, but the same building. And we're being told that, traders are being asked to pick up anything that they could pick. It is believed that it may have started in an old warehouse in that building. And the Ghana National Fire Service also this morning, when I checked with the PRO, that's Ellis Robinson Oko, who will be joining us later on the show. I don't know because of the fire again, but they were there and they were doing a thing or two. He talked about ensuring that everything was done. At the time, I didn't have information that the fire had reignited. It's just happened. Well, we're told that we have Manuel on the line now.
Perfect.
So let's get to Manuel.
Manuel, what on earth is going on? How has this fire reignited?
Well, Kojo, what we're learning is that there is a warehouse in the thick of the building, at the very center of the building, which has been stocked with a lot of goods. And these goods are typically combustible materials ranging from fabric to toiletries and really sanitary products. And we're learning that this morning, when most of the affected traders got here, they were asked to access the building and salvage what they could from the ruins. While they were doing that, the smoldering fire, which was on the second floor, sort of reignited because it's a bit windy this morning. And so reignited. Then we saw flames re-emerging from the second floor. And so for the past 20 minutes or so, we've seen fire personnel here on the ground attempting to douse the flames again. And so we're talking about some almost 24 hours of raging fire that really has caught this particular three-story building we're reporting to you on since yesterday, Kujo.
So I mean, how wild is the fire? Are you seeing the flames licking the building again, or is it under control?
Well, at this point, the turntable ladders have been deployed by the fire service to douse the flames. So at this point, I cannot see flames. But just a couple of minutes ago, I saw the flames go ablaze again in the second floor. And it's just at one point, it's like one corner of the building. And fears that a lot of people have, a lot of the traders have on the ground is that it may spread to other parts of the building again. I can confirm to you that there are some particular stores that have been locked all since yesterday. And so when they got here, the owners of those shops were asked to now unlock the shops and then pick out the stuff that they could. And this is just to give you a bit of a context. This three-story building has a basement with underground. And so a lot of the goods really are underground. And so we're seeing a lot of the headquarters now, being contracted by some of the affected traders to help them cut their goods from the various shops which have not been affected really to a safe spot. But generally, we're seeing the fire personnel still fighting. And as I speak to you, the turntable ladder has been deployed almost 20 meters up in the sky with the pump pushing out water and discharging it into the building which is on fire.
Okay, but Manuel, I mean, since you talk about the fact that the today's fire could spread to other parts of the building, could you help us understand which parts were affected yesterday and which parts could be affected by today's fire?
And so the ground floor, and yesterday we learned that the fire really started from the second floor. It went up into the third floor and burnt up the whole floor. In fact, I see the roof having been burnt, and I see it shredded, really. And then also the first floor got affected in part. For the ground floor, it seems to have been the most unscathed portion of the building. But now the fears are that as the fire is reignited on the second floor, it may extend back to the first floor and then to the ground floor, where people are now trying to salvage their goods. Winston.
Now, before the fire started, I mean, you talked earlier about people being asked to, pick anything they could pick. Was it before the fire started or after the fire started?
Well, I've been talking to a few of the traders on the ground, and they tell me that last night, as fishing was underway to douse the flames, and indeed, when the fire service confirmed that they had a situation under control, they made attempts to get into the shops and pick what they could. But they were stopped, and we've been told this morning that that decision to stop them was based on the safety situation on the ground then. And so they were stopped from accessing the building last night. And then this morning they were asked to go in. Just a few minutes after they had accessed the building, then we saw the smoldering fire now go up in flames, needing and really calling for the attention of the fire person on the ground. And that's what we're seeing them do at this particular moment.
So Manuel, and by the way, for those of you who are listening, if you go to Facebook right now, there are live images from Makola of this building, which is suddenly on fire again. And you can see images of the fire officers attempting to douse the flames on the second floor, smoke billowing out of the already hollowed out windows due to yesterday's fire. Okay, so Manuel, this morning they were asked to go into the building and try to salvage what they can. But the fire had not been doused. All through yesterday, all the work they did not completely douse the fire, so it reignited. I mean, what explanation is the fire service giving for the fact that they, first of all, couldn't completely douse it yesterday, and secondly, didn't realize that it wasn't safe to let people back into the building?
Yeah, so, Kojo, I've been speaking to the fire officers on the ground. What I hear from them, and really what they tell me, is that last night, the situation they had under control. And indeed, their main objective yesterday was to keep the flames in check and make sure that they don't, extend into adjoining buildings, and that they were able to do. And so at the point when they disembarked their gadgets and their equipment here, they had contained it at a very preliminary stage and were hoping to then access it and kill the flames completely. That they did. But you know that just as I reported to you a couple of minutes ago, that particular floor has a warehouse. And this warehouse contains combustible materials. We're told that there were pockets of fires that had gotten access into that particular warehouse at the blind side of the personnel on the ground. And so, thinking that they had dealt with that, they then gave access to the market women and men to then go and salvage what they caught. But as they were doing that, the wind blew across the smoldering fire, which then went up in flames, together with billowing smoke this morning, Kojo.
So it sounds from the explanation they gave you that they didn't actually do a risk assessment of the building following their work yesterday or this morning before asking people to go in.
Well, Kojo, I cannot confirm to you whether or not they have done a risk assessment, but what I can report to you is that they said last night it was unsafe to give the people access into the building. This morning, the assessment says they could allow them to go in there. And while the people were going in there, the fire reignited. As whether or not that decision was based on a risk assessment, a proper risk assessment of the situation, I cannot confirm to you, Kojo.
Very well. I'm sure as you're on the ground, you'll continue to bring us updates on this. Stay with us, though, while we engage the Ghana Fire Service. Dr. Ishmael Norman is with us as well. Good morning, Dr. Norman. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you?
I'm very well. It's good to speak to you. Dr. Ishmael Norman is the president of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. But we have the PRO of the Ghana Fire Service, Mr. Ellis Robinson, joining us now. Mr. Robinson, thank you for your time. Good morning. Hello, Mr. Robinson. Okay, let's see if we can reestablish that connection with Mr. Ellis Robinson. But Dr. Norman, I mean, this is your wheelhouse. This is the sort of thing that you've done extensive study on. How could such a thing happen? After the public have been allowed back into the building, the fire reignites.
It means that, thank you very much, Kojo, and greetings to my fellow panel member. I think that the fire service has a lot of gaps that need to be filled. And when these events happen, then we get to see how unprepared they are to handle simple things like fire in a 3-story building. And this kind of thing shouldn't have happened if they were doing due diligence before they left the ground last evening. And I don't know what kind of investigative activity they are going to undertake to determine the cause of the fire. But this kind of event, I am quite surprised that after all the effort and all the bravado that they were showing yesterday in the evening, that they couldn't determine that the fire ignition point was still active and that it had to, reignite. That is a show of carelessness, negligence on the part of the Ghana Fire Service team that responded to this fire.
But technically, though, how can such a thing happen? After all the efforts they put in last night, how can this fire still be alive?
Technically, this can happen simply because it is not all fires that you use water to douse. There are also dry chemical powders, halogenated hydrocarbons that can be used, carbon dioxide, etc., etc. And I don't believe that our fire service has these dry chemicals, because every kind of fire requires its own kind of intervention. So the mechanism of ignition will tell you the kind of response that you should give. So if you put fire there and you think that everything is hunky-dory and you're going home to eat your fufu, you'll be surprised the next day. So I think if they don't have these other chemical compounds used in controlling fire, then we should ask, why don't they? Because we know for a fact, Ghana has best national practice. The airport rescue firefighting service at airport, they have all these chemicals, plus water, plus very good equipment. How come national airport can have all these things to douse fire effectively, and Ghana Fire Service doesn't? If they don't have the skill to do it, they can talk to Mr. Charles Hansen Adu or Otu, and they can help them. Because we have the national best practice, which is probably amongst the best in Africa. So why are we not learning from them?
Now, we're still trying to connect to Mr. Ellis Robinson, who's the PRO of the Ghana Fire Service, for some updates on the situation on the ground. But, fires in this country, we have a certain history. Market fires in particular. And there were those interesting investigations for which we brought foreign experts to tell us why we kept having fires in our markets. A report was handed over to leadership, and we never got to see it. I mean, in your experience as somebody who deals with disasters and emergency situations, I mean, what is it that we are all missing here? Why is it so easy for fires to break out, and why the secrecy around the causes as we discovered some years ago?
Carelessness is number one, to answer directly, and we think that everything is under control until the danger erupts, and then we see that everything is not under control. So that's part of it. Secondly, they don't want us to know what is going on. When, for example, the police personnel, a person in the police force does something, we all want to know what happened. When a soldier does, the Ghana Fire Service has consistently tried to be very secretive. We never see any investigation that they are doing what happened. For example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs got burned, and we never got to know what happened. And I think this is terrible, because if we can review, audit the report, then we can help to suggest ways and means to improve. You can see that the group that responded to the first tanker or tender that arrived there, it had absolutely no clue as to how they were going to douse the fire. They were poorly prepared. The response is the most appalling I have seen. We need also, in addition to that, we need to have a national fire response time. The fire service at airport has 5 minutes or less fire response time. Every city, Greater Accra, Greater Kumasi, Peri-Urbans, all the cities, they need to have a fire response time. This is what I talk about, critical decision making. They don't have these things. So when they attend to any event, they are totally overwhelmed, as we have seen in this particular matter. They have to open their investigations up, because investigating fire is a science, but also it's an art.
Right.
And because of that, they are vulnerable.
We'll get into that a bit more in just a moment, Dr. Norman.
This is a
Forgive me, Dr. Norman. We're going to get into that a little bit more in just a moment. But we have Mr. Ellis Robinson on the line, who's the PRO for the Ghana Fire Service. I just want us to engage him quickly, and then we'll come back for more from you, Dr. Norman. Mr. Robinson, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Please, can you raise your voice a bit?
Can you hear me now?
I'm still on the ground, so there's a lot of noise here. If you could raise your voice a bit.
I understand. I hope you can hear me now.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, this morning, the fire service allowed the public back into the building, but the fire was not completely quenched. How did this happen?
We have been able to bring the fire under control. And it's only that occasionally we have reignition of the fire because there are a lot of goods inside the building. And the only way out is to allow the traders, the owners of the goods, access to remove the things from the structure. Then we'll be able to tackle the fire from the seat.
Why is the fire service not removing the things? Why are you letting the public go into the burning building?
Please, I can't
to
hear
remove
you.
them?
Can you come again?
Yeah, I'm asking, why is the fire service not removing the items? Why are you letting the public back into the burning building?
They are not letting the public. They are the owners of the goods. That is why we have the military and the police here to identify the owners of the goods and allow them to remove.
Yeah, the owners are members of the public. They are not trained firefighters. But you are asking them to go into a burning building. Why is that?
No, it's not a burning building, please. It's not a burning building.
So the building is not still on fire?
Burning building. No, you only see smoke. It's not flame. There are only smoke that occasionally ignites. And we are here to handle it. We have been here since yesterday to this morning, and we are handling it.
So the fire occasionally reignites?
Yes, because there are two major warehouses inside the building, and they are full of clothing. And the best way is to remove the clothing that is not burning, because they can aid to start another fire.
So
the only way is to remove those clothing inside so that we can handle the little fire that is causing the smoke.
So my question is, why are the trained firefighters not removing the items?
No, that's not how it's done.
Why not?
I want you to be here to see the kind of structure that I'm talking about. It's a very huge structure. And the warehouse, we have to bring about 100 or 200 firemen to do that work. No. The owners are here. They have people who do that work. And we have been able to identify them as owners because the military and the army is assisting, the police is assisting us in that perspective. We have NANMO also here assisting us. These institutions can ensure that the people remove their waste. When you engage firemen to do the work, and tomorrow somebody says something is missing, how are we going to answer?
So
that is why we are allowing them to do it under the supervision of the police, army, NADMO, and the firemen.
But there's a fire in the building, Mr. Robinson.
There is no fire. That is what I told you. You need to be here to see if there's fire or not.
Well, we're watching live images.
There's no fire in the building. There's smoke in the building. It is the smoke that when air gets into it, occasionally it ignites and becomes fire. So there's no fire in the building.
Well, Mr. Robinson, I'm not an expert, but as I understand it, most people who die in a fire, they die from smoke inhalation.
No, but you're saying there's fire in the building. I'm here. There's no fire in the building.
Mr. Robinson, please, the question I'm asking is, most of the people...
It's a mild smoke. We have mild smoke over here.
Mr. Robinson.
There's been firefighting for over 10 hours. Definitely, you will have a clear atmosphere here. Definitely, there will be smoke here, and that's what is happening here.
Yes, Mr. Robinson, my question is this. Most of the people who die in fires die from smoke inhalation. So the smoke is dangerous, is it not? Hello? Hello? Right. We'll see if we can re-establish that connection with Mr. Robinson. But what we're learning is that they are allowing the owners of the property to go into the building where the fire keeps reigniting. But they say that there's no fire. It's just smoke. And that they are letting the owners of the property go into the building to get their property under the supervision of the police and so forth. Dr. Norman, having heard the explanation of Mr. Robinson, how do you assess their method?
They don't have any emergency response evacuation for equipment and goods from any burning building. What he's basically telling you is basically to review the lack of design for these kinds of situations. I have never, so if an airplane is burning, then the fire service at Kotoka International Airport would then tell the passengers, you know what, we have doused the plane, but go in and take your luggage and then make sure. I mean, this is so infantile. I am very sorry to say, but it's very infantile. It's a defensive mechanism which is not working. And I've met Mr. Robinson on another program before. He's a good man, but he's trying to defend the service too much. If you don't have a plan, say you don't have a plan. And stop fibbing because it's annoying. Secondly, I think that they don't have the equipment to do these kinds of jobs. And the question is why? Because every year they are giving budgetary allocation. They are giving money to buy equipment. So how come they are not looking at the structure of our buildings, the architecture, the kind of buildings that we live in, so that when they are buying equipment, it will be suitable to the equipment, to the building stock that we have in the country? How can you respond to a third floor fire with a tender that has no ladder? I mean, these are all big gaps in the management. And I think that it's probably in good order for us to also demand a public hearing and inquiry about this, because how come every fire, even the ones that are very close to them, like the one at the hotel next to the immigration headquarters, it took a long time before they got there. It's annoying that, it's not only the police that are sometimes not doing their job well, or the army, but fire services. This is a very serious matter. People's wealth, people's income, people's everything is gone. And you are fibbing on national radio? That is a shame.
What would you recommend if indeed you are right that this is a complete lack of capacity and resources? Then what would you recommend? I mean, we need a fire service. So how do we fix this? What's the first step?
The fire service in Ghana has a very good training program. Our fire service, National Fire Service, the fire service at airport, they have excellent programs. The problem is we learn in the classroom, but we don't know how to apply things. And so you can see that this is a seasoned fire service man, but he's not, as a PRO, he's doing a very bad job from my point of view, in terms of talking about the emergency itself, the response, and the nitty-gritty of how to actually complete the job. Showing up and throwing water here and there is not effective response. Credible response is when you do it and the fire doesn't ignite. But fire service people have an idea, a philosophy, that every fire will eventually be killed or be doused, because eventually it will burn itself out. And so when the way he's talking, that philosophy is operating on his mind. It's terrible. They have emergency response plans. They have a lot of details about how to do it, but when they go to the site, they forget everything. How can you show up, even as a PRO, without a breathing apparatus? And he's telling that it is okay for the public to go in and retrieve their goods when, in fact, there were chemicals in that building, and the whole place is toxic. If you were to do to read the air quality, I bet my last dollar or city that you will see that the entire air, the plume of air above the building, even about maybe 90 feet above, is all polluted air. So for him to say that tells you that he's not applying the concept that he has learned. And you cannot tell me that the people going there are not going to be exposed to some danger from particles of polluted chemicals or substances in that air. It's wrong. What that decision is a wrong decision. They should have gone in with breathing apparatuses, and then they help to move the things with either whatever forklifters or whatever. These are equipment that are there, but I think they don't want to even spend the money to even get one to do the job, because it can be done without the people exposing themselves. Right. The reasons that he's giving, the reasons are just poor.
I think we have Mr. Robinson on the line again. He's the PRO of the Ghana Fire Service. Mr. Robinson, thank you for your patience. But please, you were explaining to us before we got cut off that there is smoke, but there isn't fire. And I'm asking, is the smoke not dangerous? After all, most people who die in a fire, they die from smoke inhalation. So is the smoke not dangerous? Hello, Mr. Robinson.
Yes. Yes. Hello.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so my question is, you were explaining that there is smoke, but there isn't fire. That's why you are letting the owners go back into the building to get their property. And I'm asking that most people who die in fires, they die from smoke inhalation. So the smoke, is it not dangerous?
I agree with you. I agree with my brother. You see, I don't know who is speaking over there, who is describing my statement as infantile. I wish he would be here on the ground to see the situation on the ground that I'm talking about. You understand me? We don't have the men here who can do the salvaging. You understand me? And the alternative to ensure that this fire goes off is what I am talking about, not what he is sitting there talking about. I'm very sorry that he has to describe my statement as infantile. I'm very, very sorry about that.
Okay, I mean, I think you have the opportunity to respond. If there's anything you want to say in response, we'll give you that opportunity.
I don't have anything to say. The only thing I have to say is that we are challenged. The only alternative to bring the goods inside the building is to allow the owners to take charge of it. And that's what we are doing, not what he thinks on paper is right. It's not what he thinks on paper is right. The situation on the ground is a different situation altogether. It's a different situation altogether. I wish he travels from your office to this place to see the situation on the ground.
Well, my colleague is there with you, and we got live pictures here as well, so we are observing what is happening. But Mr. Robinson,
I am the professional, and I'm telling you what we are doing to handle the situation. But the way he's describing our efforts, I'm sorry, it is not paper. This thing that we are doing here. This is a practical situation that we are dealing with, and you can compare fire service with other foreign nations. They have different environments. And what we are having here is also a different situation altogether. You see, so I'm sorry that he's describing our effort as infantile, or my statement as infantile.
Right. So, Mr. Robinson, I mean, let's talk practically then. As you said, you are on the ground. So, if what we understand from the building we work in here at Multimedia, if there is a fire alarm, we are to leave all our property and exit the building. Life before property. So if at this point you have dangerous smoke still in the building, why are you prioritizing the property? Why not focus on combating the fire and leave the owners out of the building?
Describe the smoke as dangerous. Have you been here? What you see in the pictures is not the reality on the ground. Come here and look at what is happening.
So you tell us.
Describing the smoke as dangerous. Have you been here to assess the smoke to know that it's a dangerous smoke?
Okay, so you tell us. Have you assessed it? Have you done a test of the air quality to determine that it's not dangerous?
It wouldn't cause harm. That is why we are allowing the people to remove the goods. So for somebody to describe that effort as infantile, it's up to the person to decide.
Okay, so that smoke is not dangerous. That's what you're saying.
Hello?
Yeah, so you are telling us the smoke is not dangerous.
No, the smoke is not anything smoke. The smoke is not anything smoke. There are people here, even onlookers, standing here to watch. You see, onlookers all over the place. And if we should leave them, you will see the kind of chaos that will happen over here.
Okay, now, Mr. Robinson, you talked about the fact that you are on the ground, you've assessed the situation, and it's not what is on paper. So, just by way of clarification, best practice on paper, when this happens, and if you had the men and not had to improvise, you wouldn't have allowed the people to go in there?
I have been speaking from yesterday that we are challenged in so many ways. So what we are doing here is to make sure that we protect life and property. And what I've described is the exact thing that we are doing over here. So it's not like I'm trying to hide anything. What am I hiding? I'm not hiding anything. We are actually challenged. We don't have men to come here to come and do that work. So you need to sympathize with me. If you think what I'm saying is not the reality, come on the ground and come and see yourself. Come and see yourself what is happening on the ground. It's very pathetic. People, we have been able to save a lot of things through the crude method that you are talking that we are using. Have been able to. People have removed their safe and all those things over here. So if you describe a method as crude or whatever it is, that is what we are met with. That's what we can manage as at now.
So tell us, what does the fire service need in order for this, for such a thing to be handled better in the future? What would you need?
I'm not hearing you. There's a lot of noise here, so I'm not hearing you.
I'm just asking, what would the fire service need in order to manage such a situation better in the future? What resources would you need?
Oh, definitely, we need to employ more men. We need to employ more men. We need to revamp our resources. You understand me? All these things need to be done. But once it has not been done, then we need to manage with the situation. Can we say that we don't have equipment so we won't fight fire? No. There's no other fire service in Ghana. There's only one Ghana National Fire Service. So whether we have equipment or not, we have to do something. You understand me? And that's exactly what we are doing.
Mr. Robinson, thank you. And in fact, I'm going to come there because I definitely want to appreciate the situation.
Come here and come and look at the situation.
Yes. So I'll be there. I'll
come
be there.
And look. I have one red eye, but I'm managing with one eye to speak to you. It's not easy.
Yeah. I'll be there. I'll be there to experience this for myself. And please, Mr. Robinson, I hope it's not the conditions that are affecting your eye. But I hope you are able to get better soon. Thank you for your time speaking to us.
Thank you.
Mr. Ellis Robinson is the PRO of the Ghana Fire Service. Dr. Ishmael Norman is the president of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. Thank you for your time with us this morning, Dr. Norman. I'm depressed, man. I don't know about you.
Well, could you so, I mean, of course, this morning, Manuel is giving us a picture of what's happening there. And you've heard from Mr. Robinson, Oko, make the point that they've had to improvise. It's not as if they don't know what they're about. They know. But he's on the ground there. He's seen the situation. And so being on the ground, the situation demands that they take the decisions that they have taken. And that is why he's had to take those decisions. He's talked about having to fight with one red eye. I mean, and that actually depresses me too. The fact that, you are in there and having to do everything that you can do, but unfortunately, you don't have the equipment.
I just want people to be safe.
Yeah.
I am still a bit uncomfortable with the idea of people being asked to fetch their property. I feel like life should always come before property. And, this idea of the smoke not being dangerous and that they're doing it under supervision, I don't know how I feel about that. But you know what? I think we're going to take some messages when we come back. Perhaps it'll be time to hear from you. Also, there's a demonstration going on while all this is kicking off. We'll be taking you there as well. All of that when we return.
Why do you allow coughs, cold, and flu to ruin your happiness? You need Summerlin cough syrup. Summerlin cough syrup will relieve you and your family from coughs, cold, and flu. Summerlin offers a whole range that provide relief for the entire family. Insist on your Summerlin in pharmacies and licensed chemical shops. Summerlin cough syrup from Danex Itin Starwin PLC. If symptoms persist after 48 hours, consult a physician. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Nana, Yen Control. Jumia presents Celebrate Your Everyday. It's Jumia's 9th anniversary and we are celebrating with amazing specials. Enjoy up to